So we're moving on to lesson 3-8. So this is what your table of contents should be looking like. And we are actually going to be gluing on both pages 38 and 39. You should have page 37 and 38, or 36 and 37 in there with the 2 pages of notes from, like, with examples from Miss Wheeler. And so page 38 here is going to be, it's going to look like this right here. It's going to be notes and examples that we're going to do on extra practice. So we're going to put extra practice 3-8. And then on page 39, the page is going to look like this. And I've actually typed it up for you guys today. And it's on writing linear equations. And this is going to be lesson 3-8 on both of those. So if you'll make sure that you've updated your table of contents and you're keeping track of them, we're going to switch over to those 2 pages. And we're going to, I'm going to go to 38. Page is sticking. Okay, 38 and 39. So you'll be putting this page over here on page 38. And so I'm just going to put that right there. So notes today, it says write an equation in point, slope form, and slope-intercept form for each line. And we're going to be doing examples like this. And I want to read through these notes that are over here on the right-hand side with you guys. I've actually typed these up today, but I want to go through it step by step. So I don't want you actually reading into any of the information too far in advance. So I'm going to start off with looking at lesson 3-8. This is a form that you need to be familiar with. Now, you won't find this one on your formula and chart until you get into algebra, but we need to have you ahead of the game and kind of ready for that. But point slope form is a little different than slope intercept form, which is what we did yesterday. Slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where you know what your slope is and you know where your y-intercept is. Point slope form is a derivative of taking the slope along with one given point and setting it up in what we call point slope form, where you have slope and one of the given points that exists on that line. And so you kind of have to know a point or two to do that form. But you can do it if you know the equation. You basically can plug this in, and we talked about this yesterday. You can plug in the equation, and I'm going to go through that for just a second. So there was still some confusion over that. But if you type in an equation, let's say like, let's see, 2, type it in here, 2x plus 3, and we go to the second button right here, and we hit graph where it says table in blue right there, second table, it'll actually give you the table of values for that equation. And so you can get into the negatives or the positives, so you can actually find 2 points. And you just use 1 point today, and we'll be plugging this into point slope form up here, and then putting it in that form. So we're going to be using 1 point, like I just said, and we're going to be plugging into this formula. When you do that, you use slope, and to find slope, you're just using linreg if it's not given. So if you don't have this form and you need to find the slope, then you can have also 2 points, and you can put it in and then find slope that way. And those are some of the things we've done. So here's an example 1. It says find an equation of a line that passes through -2, 3, where -2 is going to be called our x1 value, and 3 is going to be our y1 value. Well, that has a slope of 4. And I put the m here because that's slope, just a reminder. And so to do this, you're going to plug in values, and you're going to solve algebraically. So you're basically going to be changing from point slope form to slope intercept form. So in that situation, what I do is I take this point slope form, and you just have to know the form, and I actually plug into this equation my y1 and my x1. So if you notice, these are the 2 unknowns that I don't know. And so I have to basically just have a point, which is there. And this will be our x1, and this will be our y1. And I just plug into this equation here. So I've got y minus 3, because that's my y1. So y minus y1 equals, and the slope was given as 4 over here. So 4 times x minus, and then it's x1. Well, x1 happens to be a -2. And so I put here keep, change as just a reminder that you're going to change this to an addition problem. So keep, change. That would be x plus 2 there, because I would change minusing a negative to adding a positive. And then at that step, we would distribute. And so y'all know how to do that, 4x plus 8. That's just a reminder that we're distributing there and there. And then I get y minus 3 equals 4x plus 8. So you're going to add 3 to both sides to solve for y. And when you do that, you get y equals 4x plus 11. And that shifted over a little bit. But these cancel out, and you got 8 plus 3 is 11. So y equals 4x plus 11 is your slope-intercept form. So basically, that's all you're doing. You're just switching from taking point-slope form, and then I can do it to slope-intercept form. Really no problem, not a hard deal, makes it pretty easy. So this is if I'm given slope and just 1 point, because before we had 2 points, it was easy to Lin-rig with 2 points. But if you just have 1 point and your slope, and you're trying to find the equation of the line, then that's when you're going to use your point-slope form, when you just have a point and a slope. That's why it's called point-slope form. This is the point, this is the slope, hence the name point-slope form. So example 2, find an equation of a line that passes through 2 points. Well, if you're doing that, you pretty much just need to Lin-rig it, right? So I Lin-rig it, and then I wind up getting my equation y equals mx plus b. So in the case of this one, if I Lin-rig it, a on my calculator shows up to be -0.8, and or -4/5, and my b is 7.4. So basically, I'm just plugging that in like I did yesterday, y equals -4/5 x plus 7.4. And then I plug it into slope form. And when I do that, I already know one of the points. And it honestly doesn't matter which of these 2 points you use. So we use 8, 1 here. And I'm going to plug in my 8 for my x1, that's x1, my 1 for y1. And so then I'm going to subtract, going to distribute -4/5 x plus 32/5. And then I add 1 to both sides to get y by itself. In this situation, when you add 1 here, they cross cancel, but adding 1 is like adding 5/5 to 32/5. You have to have a common denominator. And so that gives you 37/5. So y equals -4/5 x plus 37/5 is slope-intercept form. And you can plug into y and look at a table to verify both points. So if you actually plug in this equation right here, these 2 points should show up in the table of values for that equation. And so I'm just going to show you that. We're going to just plug it in. So we hit y equals up here, this y equals, and I'm going to switch it to this formula here. Now, the only thing you have to make sure you do is put -0.8. If you want to use the 4/5, you'll have to do it in parentheses. And then I've got x, and then I'm going to have plus, and it says 37/5, which I know this to be what decimal? Let's see, 5 goes into 37, 7 times is 35, 7 and 2/5, which is 7 and 4/10, 7.4, because basically that's what we had right up here, right? And then if I hit stat, calculate 4, and I Lin-rig it, I know that my equation is that, but I can also second table it and check my table. And so my table should have an 8,1 located on it. So if I just scroll down here, I should have 8,1, there it is. And I should have a -2,9, and I can go, oops, there it is, -2, 9, and those points are there. That's a good way to check ourselves just to make sure we're adequate. So we're going to go over here to these examples over here on the extra practice, okay? And this is where we're going to practice on the left hand. Okay, so continuing with the left side of the notes, or on the even side on the left side over here across from the notes we just talked about, we're actually going to do some sample problems. So number 1 says pass through 2, 2 with a slope of 3. So we know that y equals mx plus b is our traditional slope-intercept form, and we've got slope, which is 3. So if I've got a point and a slope, this is called point slope, and I want to use this form. So I'm going to put y equals, my m is 3x and then plus whatever my intercept is. And so I go slope, and it passes through the points 2, 2. And so I know right now that that's the first part of it. But since I have point and slope, I do want to use the point slope method, which is the slope, point slope, sorry, this is a slope intercept form. Slope, point slope would be y minus y1 equaling m times x minus x1. And so I want to use this anytime I have a point and the slope. So therefore it's point slope. So I'm going to use this one here. So I'm going to try, and this, I know this is going to be the first part of my slope intercept form when I have my crossing b, but I got to find my b first. So I'm going to plug into this formula, and again, this is my x1 and this is my y1. If you want to label those, you can. And so I'm going to just write down y minus, and I'm using this point slope form right here, y minus the y1, which is 2, has to equal the slope, which is 3, times x minus whatever the x1 is, which is also a 2. So you can't go wrong there. They're both 2's. So that's my y1 and my x1. And so I'm going to simplify by distributing. So I'm going to put y minus 2 equals, and I'm going to distribute here. So that's 3x minus 6. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So it's just all the steps we've been doing all along. So y equals 3x. And when I add these two, I get minus 4. And then you wind up actually already having it in your slope intercept form that you want. So it's actually 3x, not plus, but minus, my bad right there. And let me go ahead and take a second to, sorry about this, guys, get right out. There we go. And so I can just change that to minus. Why you like to write in pencil. So minus 4. Okay, so write an equation in point slope form and slope intercept form. And so this is right here, the point slope format right here. This is point slope, and this is slope intercept. And so we've got our two forms. Yahoo, we've got it. All right, we're set to go with that. And when I go to number 3 here, it says passes through the point, and we have a slope. So again, I'm going to plug it back into my point slope formula. So y minus, and this again is your x1, and this is your y1. So y minus, negative 1 equals my slope, which is negative 1/2. And don't forget, it's a fraction. And I'm multiplying by x minus my x1, which is 2. So I'm going to keep change right here. So this will be y plus 1, keep change. Just a reminder of that. And then I've got negative 1/2 distributing here, 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times a negative 2 is going to be a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and half of 2 is just 1. That makes it pretty simple. I'm going to subtract 1 from this side. I'm going to subtract 1 from this side. Whoop, there they go. And I get y equals negative 1/2 x. And so notice there's no b here, and that's okay. So basically, this right here is our point slope format. And again, we probably want to put y plus 1 equals negative 1/2 times that. And then the equation of the line that's in y equals mx plus b, or what we call slope intercept form, is y equals negative 1/2 x. So we have them in both forms. Yeah, nice. So when you have 2 points, what do? Well, first thing off, you want to LinReg, give you your equation of the line, makes it pretty simple. And so I hit my stat edit, and then I'm going to, let me put this over here, plug in those 2 points right there. So we have 4, 7, and 0, 3. Oh, I've already got it there. And we're going to hit stat, calculate for LinReg, enter, 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 enter. And I get the equation with a is 1 and b is 3. So that would be y equals x plus 3. That makes it pretty easy. So y equals x plus 3. So it makes it really simple for me. At this point in time, this is where you kind of have to think about, you've got 2 different points. So if I'm going to put it into this format right here, I can use either point. So there's actually going to be 2 answers possible, and we're going to talk about both of those. So if I choose, let's say this one first, and I'll do this one second. So I'm going to drop these into two sections. So this will be first, and this will be second. Then I'm going to plug this 4, 7 into this equation. So it'd be y minus, and my y1 would be 7, has to equal my slope, which my slope happens to be 1 because we've already calculated that. So it'd be 1 times x minus my x1, which would be 4. And so that's it pretty much. Over here, if I use the second point here, it'd be y minus the 3, that's my y1, equals my slope of 1 times x minus my x1, which is 0. Now, if I simplify this down just a little bit, it'd be y minus 3 equals x. Because you don't have to do anything with this right here because that's just 0. So that's kind of strange looking, I know. But you know, that's kind of how it's going to pan out on that side. And you're not solving anything, so this is just going to stay in this form. And actually probably better just to go ahead and put it in this format here, and that one's tricky. So that's it for that one. And then on the next one, so passes through these 2 points here. So again, I can linreg this one, and I'm going to put it into stat. I'm going to go to edit. Instead of those points, I got 8, 7. So all I have to do is change this to an 8, and this is 0, 0. So that actually makes this kind of simple, 0, 0. So, whoops, 0. And 8, 7, 0, 0, and those are my 2 points there. Stat, calculate 4, enter, 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 enter. And I got, oh, crazy 0.875, and you put this in your Casio, it gives you a fraction, which happens to be 7/8. So the equation here is y equals 7/8 x, and if you notice, there is no b, so plus 0 would just leave it as is. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and we're going to let this be the first point possibility. That's the second one. And so this is, again, this is your first format, which is called your slope-intercept format. And then we're moving to point slope. And there's 2 possible answers on this one. And so for this situation, it'd be y minus, I'll do this first point here, y minus y1, which would be 7, equals the slope, which is 7/8 times x minus the 8. And so that's the one possibility that it could be. That's all you're doing is just plugging it in. And then for the second one, it's y minus 0, basically 0 equals 7/8 times x minus 0. And that's the second version. And that is it. So not too difficult, just flexing between the 2 possibilities and seeing which answer looks appropriate.